Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Chloe Feng. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. A three-vehicle collision leaves 2 people dead in Tung Chung. A photographer is sent to jail after being reconvicted of taking part in an unlawful assembly. And in Malaysia, at least 18 people are killed in a landslide at a campsite. Two people have been killed and 10 injured in a three-vehicle pileup in Tung Chung. A long-wing bus, a double-decker, rammed into the back of a truck, causing it to hit a van in front. The truck and van belonging to Sparkle Environmental Services had stopped at Tung Chung Eastern Interchange. 4 employees were engaged in cleaning work by the roadside and 2 were resting in the truck when the accident happened at around 9:20 a.m. The drivers of the truck and the van were killed. 4 workers and 6 bus passengers were injured and sent to hospital. The 28-year-old bus driver was arrested on suspicion of causing deaths by dangerous driving. Police will look into the bus driver's mental state and driving attitude. A photographer has been reconvicted of taking part in an unlawful assembly after government lawyers won an appeal against the quashing of his sentence. The man was again found guilty of tailing a plainclothes police officer and was jailed immediately, Joanna Ho reports.
Choi Kin-yu was again sentenced to 3 months in jail after the Department of Justice won an appeal this morning to overturn a High Court ruling that acquitted him of an unlawful assembly conviction earlier. The 37-year-old photographer had been found guilty of participating in an illegal assembly in Taipo's Megamall 2 years ago. People had gathered to mourn Chow Ti-lok, a university student who died after falling from a car park near a protest site in November 2019. Choi was accused of chasing after a plainclothes police officer to film a video, but was acquitted on appeal when Judge Albert Wong ruled that there was insufficient evidence to prove him guilty. However, at the city's highest court today, a 5-judge panel led by Chief Justice Andrew Chung reversed the High Court ruling. In handing down the verdict, the judges said Choi had tailed the officer with other co-defendants, and that constituted an unlawful assembly. The way that he filmed the officer disrupted social order, and his conduct had been intimidating, insulting, and provocative, the Court of Final Appeal said. It supported the initial ruling by Magistrate Don So that Choi had the intent to encircle the officer with other people. Therefore, it was obvious that his filming was not spontaneous. The judges reinstated the judgment and punishment, ordering Choi to begin his 3-month jail term immediately. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
The observatory has again issued the cold weather warning, with the temperature expected to drop significantly tomorrow night.
The temperature in the urban areas will fall from 15 degrees at first to around 10 degrees by tomorrow night. The weather should gradually become fine. And on Sunday and Monday morning, the temperature will drop to 8 to 9 degrees in the urban areas, with a few degrees lower in the new territories. The weather will be sunny and very dry during the day.
The observatory also warned that the weekend will be windy. It urged people undertaking outdoor activities to avoid the wind chill effect brought on by prolonged exposure to wind. The mercury is expected to rise by the middle of next week. Macau has eased COVID restrictions for all arrivals, including those from Hong Kong, by letting inbound travelers isolate in a hotel of their choice. Starting tomorrow, arrivals who test positive during their isolation period can continue to stay in the same hotel and will not be sent to a quarantine facility. Apart from daily RAT tests during the 5-day period, a PCR test on the 3rd day is mandatory. Provided all results are negative, the health code will change to green on the 5th day, signaling the end of quarantine. Hong Kong, meanwhile, recorded 15,726 new infections, including 823 imported cases. another 32 people succumbed to the virus. Overseas, a landslide in Malaysia has left at least 18 campers dead and around 15 missing. The campsite on the outskirts of the capital, Kuala Lumpur, was suddenly blanketed by thick mud that fell from a road about 30 meters above, while holidaymakers slept in their tents. 3 children and 10 women were among those killed. Hundreds of firefighters and rescuers dug through the mud searching for those still unaccounted for. 60 were rescued earlier, many with injuries, and 8 were admitted to hospital. It's been reported that the campsite had no license. European Union leaders have slapped more sanctions on Russia, and the United States is stepped up combat training for Ukrainian troops, Azam Khan reports.
European leaders agreed at their last summit of the year to impose a 9th round of sanctions against Russia for invading Ukraine. Details have yet to be made public, but the initial proposal was to blacklist another 200 Russians and target Moscow's banks, mining sector, and defense industry. The EU also agreed to dish out an additional $19 billion in aid to Ukraine.
The EU is at the forefront of support to its neighbor, as it should be, and will remain so.
The United States, meanwhile, announced plans to further expand military training for Ukrainian forces as it cranked up arms and aid to Kyiv.
Combined arms maneuver training is a logical next step in our ongoing training efforts, which began in 2014 to build the Ukrainian armed forces capacity. While there's an understandable focus on the equipment being provided to Ukraine, training is and has been essential to ensuring Ukraine has the skilled forces necessary to better defend themselves.
In response, President Vladimir Putin said Western sanctions have failed to damage the Russian economy. He highlighted Moscow's financial resources to weather the storm, as well as plans to increase natural gas exports to the east. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
At least 10 people, including 5 children, have been killed in a fire in an apartment building near the French city of Lyon. Officials said a sizable blaze had broken out in a 7-story block of flats. At least 4 people are in critical condition and 10 others, including 2 firefighters, reported minor injuries. About 170 firefighters eventually extinguished the blaze as officials investigate its cause. The head of Hong Kong's central bank says there's no risk to the city's financial system, although the aggregate balance has fallen below the psychological level of $100 billion. And the U.S. said the balance will not dry up because the city's interest rate is catching up with the U.S. dollar interest rate.
Aggressive U.S. interest rate hikes have led to capital outflows, prompting the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to intervene 41 times since May to prop up the local currency. It sold U.S. dollars while purchasing over 240 billion Hong Kong dollars after the local unit touched the lower end of its trading band. That pushed the aggregate balance below the psychological threshold of $100 billion. In responding to concerns, Monetary Authority Chief Executive Ed Yue told iCable News that the drop doesn't threaten the stability of the city's financial and monetary system. The aggregate balance now stands at over $90 billion, which is more than enough, he said, noting that it dropped to about $50 billion in 2019 and 2020, when the U.S. also raised interest rates. Yue assured that the balance will not be eaten all up, as the city's interest rate has caught up with the U.S. dollar interest rate, and the carry trade activity will be reduced. Turning to the record losses in the third quarter by the exchange fund, which was set up to defend the Hong Kong dollar. Yue blamed high volatility in the global capital market for eroding its investment. He said the authorities will adopt a more defensive investment strategy.
Hong Kong's unemployment rate has eased to 3.7% as the labor market improved for the 7th consecutive 3-month period. The jobless rate in the September to November period fell by 0.1% from the 3 months ending in October. Retail and catering made big gains, while the hard-hit tourism sector continued to recover. The government says the short-term outlook in the labor market will depend on how fast the local economy picks up. And now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 82 points. Top 10 active stocks: Tencent down 80 cents, Alibaba up 55 cents, Meituan down 90 cents. AIA down 5 cents, Wuxi Bio up $2.65. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.27, British pound at 9.49, Australian dollar at 5.21. Moving on to the UK market, the London FTSE is currently down 89 points. There was tepid interest from investors as two exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, for Bitcoin and Ether futures made their Hong Kong debut.
We believe that having these products launched in Hong Kong will provide the connectivity between VA players and traditional financial institutions, offering investors with products of proper safeguards, hence promoting the overall growth of this sector in the market. Hong Kong is a pioneer to implement a comprehensive regulatory regime which can increase investor confidence.
Issuer CSOP Asset Management's Bitcoin and Ether futures ETFs both rose 0.45% for the day to $7.80. Their debut, also the first in Asia, came 1 month after the SAR government announced plans to boost the development of virtual assets. The timing was awkward, coming shortly after the collapse of the world's second largest crypto exchange platform, FTX. Macau's 6 casino operators are to invest about $15 billion as part of their contract renewals. Chief Executive Ho Ya-sing officiated at the ceremony in which the incumbent operators signed 10-year contracts that take effect in the new year. Sands China, Wynn Macau, Galaxy Entertainment, MGM China, Malco Resorts, and SGM Holdings were successful in winning renewals. Malaysia's Genting had tried to replace one of them, but failed. The mainland is said to be accelerating plans to speed up growth next year to ease concerns over its faltering economy. The Wall Street Journal cited sources as saying new Politburo member Chloe Feng is drafting a growth plan of more than 5% for 2023. He, who has the National Development and Reform Commission, is reported to have called for the easing of COVID controls and boosting the problematic property sector while restoring business confidence. Some of his proposals have been adopted. On to the weather now. It will get colder as temperatures drop to 10 degrees in urban areas tomorrow night. Winds will be strong and the maximum temperature tomorrow is expected to be 15 degrees. The mercury will fall to single digits on Sunday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Chloe Feng. Thanks for watching. Good night.